We want to start this thing off with our pal Louis Riddick. It's a namesake, all right? We're going to call it one of our favorite segments called Riddick-ulous.
Yeah, we've been doing this
the face that really makes it. It's that photo that makes it.
It does.
Riddick-ulous.
I forget what I was looking at when I was.
And why the puckered lips?
I was thinking about something.
He was judging somebody.
I sure was.
that much is clear.
Louis, the Browns should trade Myles Garrett. Is that ridiculous?
She's not wrong. No, it's not ridiculous. I mean, listen, this is a reset in Cleveland again. And I understand that they have a lot of draft capital now that people are very interested to find out how Andrew Barrie winds up using it. But this is a reset again. I mean, we had this discussion last year with Myles before he signed an extension. And I think now, considering where he is at in his career, I'm sure he's probably thinking, do I need to go back in there and ask for this one more time? Because I don't think winning is on the horizon for us in the immediate future.
So that is not ridiculous.
No.
Do you agree, Mike T?
I totally agree. And this is, to me, like a massive reconstruction relative to compete in the AFC with all those great quarterbacks. So I think absolutely Myles Garrett, first ballot Hall of Famer. This is a rebuild. If you can get multiple first-round picks, you have to consider it because you're a year or two away from competing meaningfully.
They should have done this last year.
Yep.
Okay, here's the thing. Within Cleveland, the whole Jim Schwartz, that whole situation, that did not go over well. I think it'll take a while until players finally settle in with it, right? Because Todd Monken knew. New DC, everything is new. They've had, on defense, they've had multiple coordinators in the 6 years that Stefanski was head coach. I understand the finances of moving a Myles. I guess it's the logic that I'm looking for because last year it made a ton of sense. And they dug their feet in and said, we are not moving you. We don't care what you have to say. Now they'd give him up after that season. But I will leave you with this. Hembo sent me this stat. Myles Garrett had 66.5 career sacks in the games that his team lost. So clearly the sacks aren't producing wins, but still one of the best in the game.
So you're leaving us. That was it. You're done?
Yeah.
That was your walk-off stat? All right.
Ta-da!
All right, Louis, the Texans should move on from C.J. Stroud. Is that ridiculous?
Yeah, I do think this is ridiculous. And I understand how the season ended for CJ. I understand what it looked like in Pittsburgh. I understand what it looked like in New England. And I understand some of the statements that were made about him and whether or not other quarterbacks could have wound up, doing something to help them win football games more so than what he did against the Patriots. This is still a very talented young man who had one of the great rookie seasons of all time. And having talked to him, I think he is wired the right way. I think his skills are such that they really fit the modern game. I think that, obviously this offense finally took some time to kind of find its footing, dealt with a lot of injuries up front, didn't have a really explosive running game. They really missed Joe Mixon this year. There's a lot of things that contributed to his play going downhill. Obviously, he takes a lot of responsibility for it. But you don't move on from a guy like this. No. Not someone as talented as C.J. Stroud.
Well, I agree with that. I think the gap is really closing with Davis Mills. Got this from Hembo. In the history of the NFL, C.J. Stroud is the only quarterback to have 5 interceptions and 5 fumbles in a postseason, and that was done in 2 games. Davis Mills in 6 games last year, 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception. So, look, C.J. Stroud played great as a rookie. For whatever reason, it's gone backwards. Offensive line, to me, would be the biggest culprit. He needs to play better. That is a championship defense, and I think there's a big sense of urgency there.
So, Michael, you just said O-line needs to be better. They've had OC changes. Not just Joe Mixon hasn't been on the field, but Tank Dell, Nico Collins has missed time in this window. So for C.J. Stroud to have that remarkable rookie season, and we're at this point thinking, the gap between him and Davis Mills, that's a bridge I'm not willing to cross just yet.
That might be Riddick-ulous as well, the Davis Mills piece of it.
You can't ignore 10 turnovers in 2 games.
But you're using 6 games as the litmus test of what Davis Mills can be. I want to see him over 3 seasons.
I'm not saying to replace him.
No, I got you.
There is a sense of urgency.
There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Look, there is some accountability on the part of C.J. Stroud to play better. There's no doubt about that. You just don't move on from this guy this soon. Not yet. And as much as I like Davis Mills, you don't move on from him for Davis Mills.
Caleb Williams thinks the Bears will have the best offense in the league in 2026. Is that Riddick-ulous?
No, actually, it's not. It's not. Look, they have got all the components that you want. They have got a dominant offensive line. They have got a complementary set of wide receivers that really fit with one another. They've got 2 tight ends that really complement one another. They've got a play caller in Ben Johnson who's really developed a great rapport with his quarterback. I think, quite honestly, the quarterback is the guy who is the one who kind of like puts the ceiling on this offense, relatively speaking.
And speaking of the quarterback, he said this about his team's goals in year 3. Take a listen.
I really want to become the greatest offense this year. So that's really on my mind. Being able to find ways to put up points every single time we're out there. I think the average was 38.5 or something like that of Denver that Peyton year where he had 50 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I think it's 39.
Yeah,
is the number average score, and so that's what we're going for.
I don't mind the way he phrased that. That's what we're going for. You should strive for greatness, Mike T.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Lou. I love Luther Burton and Colston Loveland, and I think they're a year away from that statement. Caleb Williams just has to get more consistently accurate. He averaged 58% completion percentage. That was 28th in the NFL.
Yeah.
If he increases by 50%, he'll be average. So to me, this offense has great foundation and great potential. Maybe in 27 or 28, but Caleb Williams has to become much more consistent. The talent is undeniable. These plays are incredible. They're entertaining. Very few people could do that, but he needs to be more consistently accurate.
Well, having covered the Bears' last 2 playoff games and seeing Caleb Williams make the greatest throw, only to see him make the most mind-boggling interception, you're just like, no. They have all the talent. They have the coaching staff, the head coach in charge, to make this possible. Again, it's really just limiting the turnovers and upping that completion percentage,
That was
and they can do that.
Caleb Williams experience in 2 throws.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The wow, oh my goodness, and the what are you doing? And that's what it's been here for his first 2 years in the league.
Yep, that's all it is. Look, it's just eliminating the peaks and valleys. If he can do that along with the defense continuing to produce turnovers, give them more cracks at it, they could get above that 30, 32-point threshold. But he will set the ceiling for this football team, just like he'll set the floor for it too.
I was around Brett Favre for a year, and I feel like this is a lot like Brett Favre early in his career. And Brett told me, he's like, Mike, it just took me a while to learn how to eliminate, the 1 or 2 bad throws a game. And from a talent standpoint, I see those guys very competent.
Yeah, look, and if he harnesses that, again,
he'll be
generational talent, we'll see if it comes to fruition
Yeah.
in Chicago. Only year 3. Back on Get Up, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. They're coming off a disappointing 7-win season, first year under Brian Schottenheimer. But Jerry Jones, look, he's ever the optimist. He understands the way of the NFL world. You can go from, worst to first pretty quickly. But now he's going by way of Cinderella. Take a listen.
First of all, start with this Super Bowl. I would look at these teams. Look at New England. Look at Seattle. They're made up of, for the team, first-year quarterbacks for the team, the system.
Right.
The coaches are fresh on the scene. So the point is, in this day in the NFL, you can go from a pumpkin to a carriage, so to speak.
By the way, Jerry, subscribe to Disney Plus, one of the best subscriptions out there. And okay, we'll take the bait, Jerry. We'll take the bait. Pumpkin to carriage. First one up. Will the Cowboys, Kmart, go from said pumpkin to a carriage?
Okay, guys, Jerry got me. I'm gonna say yes.
Go ahead in then.
You know what? It's this time of year. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling optimistic. They do need a lot of defensive pieces, though, but they have a meticulously constructed new defensive staff. I think they're going to get them where they need to be.
You're going to be alone in that carriage, I think. You're going to be a Cinderella without a date. Mike T, will the Giants go from pumpkin to a carriage?
No, but we're going to add some nice tires, some nice foundation. If the Giants double their wins from a year ago, they'd still have a losing record. This is a team that's a year away from a year away. I think John Harbaugh is going to do a great job, but First of all, you need Jackson Dart, Cam Scaboo, Malik Neighbors to play in a full season. You need another offensive lineman, a corner, and a safety. So that's a lot to get done in year one.
That's not crazier than my take? Come on.
Well, he didn't. You said yes. He said we're just going to put some nice tires on it and not
fine.
move it out of the garage. Will the Chiefs go from a pumpkin to a carriage, Lewis?
Look, I think Brett Veach right now is just trying to raise some money so he can see if he can upgrade and see if he can get a carrot, see if he can buy some parts. I think they can. I think they can, and primarily because of that guy right there who's rehabbing that knee, who, by all accounts, I have heard that he is just attacking that just like you would expect him to. The offensive line's intact. They need a premier running back. They need another wide receiver. They need some help up front as far as the defensive line is concerned. I think they've got second and third level players on the defense. Look, we've seen it. I mean, Jerry talked about it, right? You can flip things around pretty quickly in the NFL if you have the resources. Kansas City went from being a team that thrived winning close games to a team that really died by the same sword, last year. I think they can flip that right back around. I think a lot of it starts on offense. A lot of it starts at running back. When it comes time for them to draft this year, I think running back, without a doubt, is on the ticket.
And Jeremiah Love, I think, would be a perfect fit for them out of Notre Dame. And look, they're the favorites with the Chargers, by the way, in the AFC West. And some news this morning with Adam Schefter reported the Chiefs restructured Patrick Mahomes' contract, lowering that cap from $78.2 to $34.65 million. Significant, Mike T, and that creates almost $44 million in cap space. What do you think of this move?
Well, I think it's necessary. They have a lot of things they have to fix, including parts of their offensive line. You look at players like Jalen Moore, Juwan Taylor. They gave up 12 sacks between the two of them. Lou mentioned, hey, maybe it's a running back, Tyreek Hill. They have a ways to go. I actually still like the Chargers because the Chargers are going to get back Joe Alt. They're going to get back Rashawn Slater. Omarion Hampton only playing 9 games. So while the Chiefs are going to get better, I think this division's really good. And I think for the first time we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs not going into the season as the prohibitive favorite in the AFC West.
All right, so cap space different than drafted a Jeremiah Love. So with that money, how do you think the Chiefs could improve?
With the cap space? Look, yeah. I think, if you're talking about the free agent market, what positions could they wind up targeting? Like, obviously you want to see if there comes a point in time where any kind of premier interior or edge pass rusher comes available. You want to see what's happening in the wide receiver market for sure. I don't think you can count them out of that market. I think them making a big swing for a number one type wide receiver, I don't think you could totally rule out. I don't think them making a swing at it. I don't think that they would play in the veteran free agent market for a running back. Look, Brett Veach has a history going back to Philadelphia. I know some people would say, well, look, he swung and missed on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't think he's going to, I don't think right now people think that he really knows how to draft running backs at a high level at this point. I don't think they're going to play in the free agent market, but I think wide receiver, pass rusher would be the positions in the veteran free agent market that maybe they would look at.
And then there's Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
There's Tyreek. I mean, kind of fits the bill, but he's not healthy right away.
Right. So he doesn't help you in the immediate future for a team that doesn't have Patrick Mahomes to start the season as well. I'm curious if they were not named the Kansas City Chiefs. Would you just look at all the holes that they have, the injuries that they're dealing with, the tight end, Pro Bowl, all that stuff, tight end, who we're not sure what he's doing. Like, would you be thinking this team, yes, can turn from a pumpkin to a carriage?
Yeah, I would, because I still like many of the pieces on the offensive line. I still believe as though, based upon what I know, that Patrick will be on track to go ahead and play. I still believe on the defensive side of the football, I still think they have some very nice playmakers at the linebacker and at the secondary level. And I think they have a culture, considering the fact that they continue to retain the majority of their coaching staff every year, that really is something that they're not trying to integrate a bunch of new pieces from an organizational standpoint year after year. I think they understand what they need. Now it's just about getting in position to go about and get those things, and I think they will be able to do that.
They were 11-0 in one-score games. They played tight again in 25, but were 1-9. Has the decline been masked by that 24 year where they just happened to win all those one-score games?
I think that's a totally fair point. And K-Rock brings up another interesting element to me, which is Travis Kelce, who for so long was red zone third down. And look, it's either over or very close to the end. And again, I just think about Bo Nix, Sean Payton. I think about Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert. I think this whole division has changed. And they'll be competitive, but I just, to me, I think the Chargers are the pick.
It's not a lot that they win.
But the league is set up to be a one-score league. I mean, the league is designed for parity. They don't have to be 11-0 in one-score games, but if they were 500 or just above 500, I think that's plenty.